Afternoon. Uh, this is Doing Justice Brings Joy. I am your substitute host today, William Adams, filling in for Stella Adams. Uh, so, got a few topics we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the results of the early vote elections. We're going to cover the current early votes for all the elections that are still pending until November, and go over a few topics related to racial violence in America in the wake of Charlie Kirk. And so we'll save the heavier topic for the end of the stream. So for now, I'm going to bring in my co-hosts for today, my brother Thomas Adams, who is going to give a brief presentation on early voting and on the elections results for the elections that have come to pass. Thomas?
Yes.
Hello. Oh, sorry.
I am here. Yes, I am here, and so I will shortly show some of the results from the October primaries and elections, and after that, I'll stop for a few minutes, let you say things if you want to say, and then I will come back near the end with some of the early vote results that are from the elections that are happening now.
All right. Go ahead and proceed. Are you ready, or do you need a moment?
I need to get the screen ready, but...
All right. Then I'll go ahead and start. I'll cover one of our original topics, and we'll wait for you there. So give me one moment. Cool. And so one issue that's come up recently is this past week, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, released a video. And the content of the video is a group of young men allegedly threatening ICE officers and claiming to have put a 5,000 or 10,000 bounty on ICE officers. Now, in the video, the teens' faces are clearly visible, and it is clear these are teenagers. So, A, they would not have $5,000 to put a bounty on people's heads. But B, and more disturbingly, ICE has clearly doctored the photos. And for more information, I'm going to play just a clip of this video here to give you more information. And see. All right.
The Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem's outfit, is now weaponizing social media against the American people and putting Americans' lives at risk. The Department of Homeland Security ex-Twitter account posted this video purporting to show a group of young black men threatening ICE agents, saying there's a 50,000 bounty on your heads, and we're coming for you. And then they make a threat back and say that if you threaten ICE agents, we're coming to get you. Well, it turns out the video is an AI fake. An astute user on ex-Twitter noticed that the Homeland Security video, which is a TikTok video, they've actually changed the caption on the video. The original TikTok video has a completely different caption that's not about ICE at all. It's about Iran. They even changed the music. That's how you know it was re-edited, because the musical track on the clip is different. The caption is completely different. And they've essentially used this young man's video in order to create a fake appearance, a fake threat against ICE from young black men. So they've weaponized anti-blackness. They've weaponized a lie that these federal agents are being threatened and that there's a bounty on their heads, which they've apparently made up. And they're using anti-blackness in order to create this fake sense of threat. That is your government using your resources, your tax dollars, in order to weaponize American social media to get those Americans death threats, because that's what's happening to this young man.
That is exactly what's happened to this young man. So, Joy, read.
All right. And so, to elaborate on the situation, earlier this year, there were comments made by the leadership in Iran against the Trump administration and the U.S. At some point, the U.S. committed to military strikes against Iran. In the wake of the military strikes against Iran, the young men in the question, who are teenagers, made a video bigging up America, saying, hey, you guys wanted to fight America. This is what happens when you fight America. That was essentially the original context. Then, at some point, DHS posted an edited version of their video with altered text related to ICE, claiming that the young men had threatened and, again, put a $5,000 bounty on any ICE officer in order to galvanize support against or support for ICE officers and law enforcement initiatives. This led to a large conservative or MAGA crowd sending death threats to this young man. And again, this was a video of teenagers with their faces exposed, where the government, DHS, couldn't identify them and just directly arrest them if this was legitimate, but instead resulted to, I guess, childhood insults and threatening a bunch of teenagers. And so this was an incident that came up, and it was very disturbing to me, and I am bringing it to the attention of the community because, again, I think it requires not a response, but people need to be aware that some videos being posted by this administration are fraudulent, are faked, and that people's statements online due to AI and editing technology can now be taken out of context and used to essentially frame them, because that is what this is. It was a framing of this young man for allegedly threatening ICE officers and it was conducted by DHS, and it's on their official Twitter account. And so that is the first issue I really wanted to bring into focus today. All right, and let me minimize. If the computer will work with me. There we go. Thomas.
Yes.
Okay. So that was the first piece I wanted to cover. Do you have any response or comment?
Not at the moment, so I'll simply see if I can recover.
Okay, and you can go ahead and go do your presentation on the voting results.
All right. Okay. So,
all right.
All right, so I would like to just repeat for those who that these are the results from the primary that has already occurred in October. And so I will start with the number of people who voted early, throughout the state. You can see it was over 33,000 total. And you see by each county. And so, of course, most were in Durham,
Shout out Durham County.
Cumberland, and
Let's go.
Guilford counties, because those were the largest cities that had primaries or elections in October. And so I think if you, check by county, number of voters by county, here is Guilford County. I'll move that to. You can see Durham here. On the left is the number of voters, for each day.
Right.
And on the right is the cumulative running total. And so
Nice.
you can see that the final total for Durham is, over 11,000. And so almost 2,000 voted on the final day of early voting, which was Saturday. And so once again, these are all the early voters. And here is Cumberland County, which has the Fayetteville elections. And I believe we were also featuring Rocky Mount. And so those will be Edgecombe and Nash counties. And so it will be parts of those. This is Edgecombe County.
Okay.
And followed by Nash County. And if there's anything else here that interests you, I can, take a look at that.
So I see the spike in Nash County from Friday the 25th onward.
I can explain that on the next slide. Is there anything else?
Okay, go ahead.
All right. And so now the next slide is not just by the county, but by also the voting site. And since you mentioned Nash County, as you can see, there are two
Okay, so a second
different sites. You cannot see the full name, but the blue is the Nash County Board of Elections office,
right?
Which, as I mentioned on a few of the prior shows, is not in Rocky Mount. It's in the Nash County seat of Nashville.
Right.
And so that's where the early vote site was. And so the orange is Braswell Memorial Library, which is in Rocky Mount, and that was open on, the final Monday of early voting, and so was there for that 1 week. And so, as you can see, there are more people use the site in Rocky Mount to vote in the Rocky Mount elections than
That's curious.
Nashville.
Is there any reason why the library was open so late in early vote?
They chose not to have that site open for the first week of early voting. I think quite a few places actually did that, and so I think you'll see the same in Edgecombe County also. And so I think there it's even more stark as the Edgecombe County seat is in Tarboro, and so they open, of course, a different, Rocky Mount building, the Department of Social Services, which apparently is in Edgecombe County. And so they, yes, and so like the Rocky Mount elections, the early voting was confusing, and I imagine the same would be true for the election day vote. And so we may see that. And so I will show the remainder of the contest that we'll be featuring. And so,
Okay.
all right, well, and see, Durham has 5 different sites, and in Durham County, each of these sites was open every single day of the early voting.
Yes.
And so you can see the daily and cumulative trends. I think one thing that is, very clear is that in Durham, certainly almost the majority of people, who voted early in last week and even in the last few days, as you can see, from the cumulative totals as it, greatly, spikes up from, this final Monday. And so, and if you say, yes, you can now see from them, just looking only on those. And so if I so if I only, choose to show that, you can see. And so let me I need to undo what I've done.
Can you go to Guilford County?
Yes, I can. And so
Okay, so I see they also have multiple voting sites open.
yes, and so Guilford County had multiple voting sites, but they did not open, on the first week. They opened on if you look carefully, you will see that they did not have weekend voting the first week. I think probably quite a few places did not have that the first week also. And so I think
it's an interesting thing to look at or to consider of why the choice is made to not have all your voting sites available for the full length of early voting, especially when, like, you can clearly see statistically, more voting sites available leads to greater participation of the electorate.
yes.
So that is something to consider and look at. I don't know if you actually have explanations for that. I don't know if that would appear in the data, but it's an interesting thing to look at, especially with the municipal elections, as why certain counties choose not to have the full voting locations available to the public. And so is Rocky Mount on the border of these? Just to clarify and remind, Rocky Mount is on the border of Edgecombe and Nash County?
Yes. So parts of Rocky Mount are in Edgecombe County, parts of Rocky Mount are in Nash County. And so,
And is
but
that just
yes.
because the city is so large?
Yes, the city is, on the border between those two counties. And so I'm not entirely sure why that is, but yes, that is the case. And so that is
And I suppose it's something we don't think about much here in Durham because the only city or municipality within Durham County is Durham City, right? And so I think it's just odd to me. And perhaps, again, there may be a reason for it we're just unaware of because we do not have that circumstance as to why a county would not establish at least one voting location per municipality within said county, like per city, but would
Well,
have a single county voting location.
well, one thing about these elections is that because these are actually municipal elections, and so Rocky
Mhm.
Mount is actually the only city, in those counties that has the October election. You will find that by far the majority of municipalities that are having elections are having them in November and not having, either primaries or, as in the case of Rocky Mount, the actual election.
Mm.
And so,
Okay.
I think that I will now show Cumberland County, and yes, as you can see, Cumberland County only had their Board of Election office, but that is in the county seat, Fayetteville, and so Fayetteville was the site of the election. So
Right.
people in Fayetteville could, of course, go there to early vote, and as you can see, about 5,000 people did so.
That's good. Way to go, Cumberland.
All right, and so once again, I will show that these are the contests that we've been featuring.
Correct.
Fayetteville, mayor, and these are the city council primaries. And so Durham has the mayor and city council primaries. Rocky Mount is not; these are not primaries, but are the actual elections. And so Edgecombe County and Nash County both share wards 2 and 3. Wards 6 and 7 are in Nash County only. And
Okay.
so, but if you look at the results, you can see Fayetteville, Rocky Mount, and then Durham. And so from Fayetteville, you can see that Mitch Coleman, who I believe is the incumbent, finished first, and Kathy Keith Jensen second. So I believe they will be meeting in November,
Right.
for the Fayetteville mayor's race. You can see how. And so you can see these you can see for each of the this election was fairly close for the District 1. You can see that. District 2.
All right, so Malik Davis, Brenda McNair, Sean McMillan, and all of these were primaries, so the top two will be meeting in the general.
Yes, that is correct.
All right.
Okay, and I will, of course, return to the narrative. And in Rocky Mount, you can see there's Ward 2. This is the election. In Ward 3, this election was actually fairly close, and so I believe there will be a runoff. And so, yes, this election will be, so the top two, I believe, will be meeting in November. And so, that result may yet change because although there is a, significant lead for Charles Roberson, it's well short of a majority. And so, who knows what the outcome will be in November.
Okay.
Right. And so now for our Nash County wards, you can see that that's Tom Harrison, Barris Walker, will take those seats on the Rocky Mount City Council.
Right, because that's the actual election. Yep.
Yes. And so Durham has a primary. And so for mayor, you can see our incumbent Leonardo Williams will be meeting Anthony Bell, who was a daughter of a longtime former mayor, Bill Bell. So yeah, they'll be meeting in November. You can see that Williams has the majority, and so we'll see how if that holds up in the election in November. So for the city council races, you see they seem to be this one is fairly tight in Ward 1. Matt Kopak actually leads the incumbent Deidreana Freeman. Of course, I think with 20% of the primary vote going to other candidates, I think that doesn't really say which one will prevail in the end.
True. And considering it's a 2-point.
Yes, and one thing I should mention, and that I think if you saw the other, say in Fayetteville, I think if you look at the Fayetteville council, like each ward, only the voters in that ward vote, but and so you can see that the totals are much less,
right?
In each ward than for the mayor's race, which includes all of them. But in Durham, it is different. You see, the Durham total votes are comparable to those of city council because in Durham, voters from all over the city can vote in, for the city council member in each ward. And so the council member has to reside in the ward that they run for. There are also at-large seats, but those are contested in the elections 2 years from now. And not, but for the ward seats, yes, the council member must live in the ward, but all, eligible Durham voters can vote for those. And so,
right.
So I'll mention that. And in Ward 2, I think the incumbent Mark Anthony Middleton has a much larger deficit to Shanetta Burris on the challenger. I mean, she is short of a majority, but only just. And so I think that the incumbent will have work to do if he wants to prevail and retain his seat. I should mention he's actually the mayor pro tem, and so I think that would be a significant change. Not just on the council. If he is defeated.
True. Now, what happens if the mayor pro tem loses an election? One has to be rechosen by the mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
So. And so in Ward 3, the incumbent Chelsea Cook has a much larger majority. So
yes, has a full majority.
Yes, and so I think that is Durham. And so I think if there are other election results that happened in October that you want me to see, I can find a way to pull them up. And so,
right.
And so I think if you want to see how some of the early voters break down, I can do that for our featured races, if you want to look at that, or if you want to go on and discuss your chosen topics, I will take some time and prepare for November. So what would you like to hear?
We can go ahead and go over the early vote breakdown, at least for Durham County, for Rocky Mount. Since that's the actual election, and those results are definitive, let's go over Rocky Mount.
Well, these are the breakdown is actually of the people who voted early, because the election day totals, it takes time after the election for.
Oh, okay, so Rocky Mount's actually not in yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the early voters, and so you can see that. Yeah. Well, this is Cumberland, which is Fayetteville. That'll be the Fayetteville race, and so you can see most of the voters are Democrats, and so with fewer Republicans and unaffiliated voters.
Yes,
I imagine that's because the distribution in Fayetteville, at least in those wards that had primaries, is similar. I'll see if I can check. I may or may not be able to. Well, no, I can do it. I'll see if I have it, available now.
Gotcha.
So I'll say, as far as Durham is concerned, it's more Democratic and much less Republican, because I think if you know anything about Durham is very, very Democratic.
I do believe that, and it should still be true, Durham is the most Democratic county in North Carolina. I believe we have the largest divide between Republican and Democratic voters in the Democrats' favor of any county.
Yes, and so now, one thing I will say about, as far as it may be, the number of unaffiliateds may be higher, because there may be, some Republican voters who choose to have an unaffiliated registration so that they can vote in these municipal, so that they can vote not in the municipal, say for the county commissioner, those seats, because those primaries are partisan primaries. I think the city council is not. And so, but those, so that they, but, I think that's something for, maybe next year's, well, no, not next year, but the presidential election years.
Oh, sorry about the midterms.
Yeah. And so I'll say that in Edgecombe County, almost all of the early voters were Democrats. And so I would imagine that's because of the particular wards that, had this primary. And so, and in Nash, you can see that, mostly Democratic, but there's still, quite a few Republicans and unaffiliated voters also.
Right.
So, anything else you want to look at before I go to, let's see, what do I have here? Let's see what else I have. I have information party 2. I think this is actually the registered voters, and so I think that.
Okay, this is what.
I think this is registered voters, but I think that I haven't quite changed the title yet. So, but that's okay.
Can you look at Durham? I just want to see the distribution.
Yeah.
A lot more unaffiliated than I thought in Durham, but hey.
Yeah, I think, like I said, some Republicans can be unaffiliated, and the truth is, I think even, Democratic leaning voters may choose to not associate with the party or give themselves the option of,
Right.
voting in Republican primaries if they, see a reason to do that.
Right.
And so, so it's Durham. Let's see. Edgecombe. I mean, you can see, yes, it is mostly Democratic, but of course not as much as, what we saw.
Right.
And
Nash.
and there's Nash County, which is
Much closer to
yeah.
even cross Democrat, Republican, and unaffiliated.
Yes. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think Nash County overall is one of the bellwether counties in North Carolina, meaning it's, very finely balanced between Democrats and Republicans, like, the state as a whole. And so that's, one of the counties where, you could look to see if, which way, statewide elections trend. And so,
Gotcha.
And so here are the early voters. This is by race. And so I think we're starting this time with Durham. So you can see there are, large numbers of black and white voters with, maybe close to 10% of, the other categories.
Cumberland,
So
Fayetteville.
Fayetteville is, of course, more heavily African American.
Right.
Of course, these are the early voters. And if you see Edgecombe,
This
you
is from
see
the
that,
right.
yes, but Nash County, of course, is much different than, Edgecombe County and the people who voted early. So let me see. No, I think this looks like the same one, so I will just I think I'll stop here.
Okay.
All right, and so I'll let you go on while I, try to prepare, to talk about the early votes that are happening now.
All right. So I'll remove you just for a moment. All right. So following up on the heavier topic earlier with Joy Reid, is I wanted to bring attention to, and forgive me for not being able to bring this up on the screen. It would involve flipping through almost 10 different screens all at once. There have been numerous incidents in the wake of the death of Charlie Kirk on September 10th of black men being found hanging from trees in the South and across the country. And all of these incidents were preliminarily ruled suicides. And all the circumstances surrounding these instances are somewhat debatable or questionable. And so I want to carefully bring attention to these incidents, but also speak with caution. And so just going through the list I have here, there was a college student at Delta State University in Mississippi, Trey Reed, who was found on September 15th. There was Demetrice Moore in Arkansas, who was found on September 14th. There was Javon Gibbon in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who was found on September 17th. There was Midshipman Kyle Filbert James, who was found at Annapolis Naval Academy in Maryland on October 9th. And in Mississippi, there was also another person, race still unknown, presumably Caucasian, Corey Zukatis, who was found on the same day as Trey Reed, September 15th. And I bring that up because, one, with Charlie, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death on September 10th, there was a wave of threats made against HBCUs. And after the wave of threats of violence made against HBCUs, there was then another wave of incidents of MAGA podcasters, Turning Point USA podcasters, and people trying to enter HBCUs to conduct debates or do their podcasts and politicking on these HBCU campuses. And so for within a few weeks of all these things happening, these things also happen. And with the history of America, especially in Alabama, Birmingham, in Alabama, Maryland, New Mexico, Arkansas, and Mississippi, it would be irresponsible of us as Black people, as people who work in civil rights, to not take a long look at circumstances and to not question whether or not this is a wave of potential lynchings. But I am also cognizant that there is also a undocumented and largely unaddressed crisis in the Black community of young Black men, especially in rural areas, committing suicide. And so while I do not want to dismiss the possibilities that these were unfortunate suicides and unfortunate incidents of self-harm, and that the crisis young Black men, especially in rural communities, are facing needs to be addressed. In the current climate, I do want to draw attention to these incidents as something for us to be aware of for the potential of racial violence, because that too is also an unaddressed issue in our country. So it's unfortunately like six in one hand, half a dozen in another, where there's the unaddressed issue of self-harm among young Black men, and there's the unaddressed issue of anti-Black violence in America, which is at historic highs. And so as a community, I wanted to bring this to people's attention, because each one of these incidents I named, each person who came up individually across my radar, and just seeing for the past month, another Black man has been found hanging from a tree. Another Black man has been found hanging. I really felt the need to speak on this, and I feel that this is a topic that people need to be aware of, people need to be looking out for, and as communities, we need to really take stock and keep track of our young men, our children, and our people, and make sure that they're protected and cared for. And so that was something I just felt very personally needed to be addressed. We're going to shift back focused back to Thomas, and he's going to close us out with the voting information. So let me add Thomas back to the stage. Thomas, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'll have to
Yep.
try to hold this back up because my results are not coming the way.
Take your time.
Yeah, well, truth is it's all slowing down, so
I understand. So again, while you're doing that, I'll just say this. I'm very concerned about the direction of our country. I'm very concerned about the state of things, about the use of law enforcement in our country, and about the violence and rhetoric in our country. And these are things as I said, I keep track of and I've been looking into. And so just be aware and of what's going on in your community. Be aware if you're traveling of where you're going to. Be aware of, for organizers, of the safety protocols for any events you are hosting, because there at the No Kings rally there were several incidents of pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative, pro-Republican people showing up at the No Kings rally and antagonizing protesters and trying to get reactions, trying to cause a scene and potentially cause police involvement. And so just be aware of where you are. If you're hosting events, be aware of your safety protocols, of your safety staff. Make sure everything's in order, because there are people who are intending harm and there are people who are trying to incite reaction. So just be aware. Whenever you're ready, Thomas.
okay, like I said. It's starting to slow down, so it will take me, still have to, bring something back up, but I will have, some of the early vote totals for you, hopefully in like a minute or two. But in the meantime, there is something that I will mention briefly. And so I don't know if you are aware of this, William, but I think in the past few days, I think major story from the world of chess has been the unexpected passing of Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky. And he was a Charlotte resident, and he worked as, a grandmaster at the chess center there, which is expanded. And he was, a well-known chess streamer and commentator, in addition to being, a strong player. And so I think that one reason why his, passing is getting a lot of attention is because he was the subject of a lengthy campaign of cheating accusations from a former world champion, Vladimir Kramnik, and I think he mentioned, many times that this had a significant effect on him, and in particular, I think his final stream, which was like a couple of days before, his passing, was quite lengthy, and many people at the time were, concerned with, the length of time he was streaming and with some of the comments he made while he was, playing chess continuously.
All right. So that's unfortunate to hear.
I think what is clear is that there's been a very strong backlash, against Kramnik for, leading these accusations and hounding Naragitsky. And I think this has become, not just a topic in chess, but in, a wider sphere of, as you say, cyberbullying and mental health. And as I said, it is not at this time known exactly how he died, only that, his passing was unexpected, as I believe his 30th birthday is coming up like in a few weeks. And so, yes, and, he reportedly made plans to return to his native San Francisco area, to visit family there. So I think that, has been in the news cycle. And so I wonder if, there anything you would want to say about that.
Only that, unfortunately, again, I was in high school in the mid to late 2000s, right? From 05 to 09, and I was in college through the 2010s. And so that was when the real campaign against cyberbullying was in full swing. It was all over media. We talked about it in schools. It was in magazines. There were articles written about it, news updates about it, online discussions about it. And unfortunately, it can feel sometimes like we've lost the battle against cyberbullying to a certain extent. And, self-harm is an epidemic, and a lot of people talk about mental health issues, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of policy in regards to mental health issues. There's not a lot of policy or funding being discussed when we talk about there's a mental health crisis. Like, people will say it and people say, hey, something should be done. But again, until ink is put to paper and money is allocated, right, to resources, you don't really see change on the type of scale we need. And that's unfortunate. But yeah, so that is also something I'm researching into and keeping abreast of. Thomas, if you aren't able to pull this up, you might, early vote ends November 11th or 10th this round.
Okay. I think I've got only like the bare minimum, so I'll show you.
Okay, you have it up?
That, Yeah, I can show you.
And when does this
And so-
voting end? Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And so these are the counties that are having elections, and the number of people who voted early, in each of them. And as you can see, we have the final elections, in many counties throughout the state. And I'll see if I can show you some of those cities. I think it's actually most cities in the state, are now having those elections. And so, okay, let's see if I can do voter city. Okay, and you can see that.
Right.
And so
Washington.
I will, show the number of people who voted early. I think New Bern actually. I think we've seen that New Bern actually has a lot of people who vote early there.
Yeah.
As does Fayetteville. These are some of the largest cities which we looked at. Quite a lot in Durham. I think not as many in Rocky Mount, but because that election already happened, there's only the one runoff. But
Right.
you
Right.
can see Washington County that now Tarboro has its election, and so I think we saw some of the small towns in Forsyth County, and so I think Rural Hall, I think was the one we saw.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're seeing a few people from there voting in these.
Do you have Mooresville?
I will. It'll be at the end. It's in Wake County, and so all of the Wake County municipalities that have elections will be at the end, and so it will not have Raleigh because Raleigh recently switched its schedule. So there's Greensboro. We took a brief look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you see, quite a few in Charlotte. Because yes, Charlotte actually, if you recall, had its primaries in September. Zero partisan primaries and had its earlier, and so now their final elections are happening, as are the other places in Mecklenburg County. You can see, Wilmington is having its election, as is Chapel Hill. Guess what? Might have someone voting in Durham from Orange County. Don't know if they're actually voting in the Durham election or in maybe Chapel Hill election, because
Orange County took a piece of Durham and somebody lives there.
Yeah, well, they're. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I think in Nash County there are a few people voting in Rocky Mount runoff, and so I think so far it looks like more. Let's see. Looks like about the same from Edgecombe and Nash, in that one. But of course, it's still very early, so who knows what the total will be. And so I think we're now getting close to Wake County. And so here we have it. As you can see, there are actually quite a few municipalities in Wake County. So here is Morrisville.
Mm.
And so I believe there are a few, listed in Raleigh, although Raleigh is not having, its city election. So they're, probably outside the actual city limits and are, voting in one of the other elections. But yes, you can see that, almost all of, these cities other than Raleigh are having, elections of some type. There's quite a few of them. And yeah, I think that's it. And so, like I said, I wish I could show you more, but started to run into a few issues, and so.
Okay, well that's fine, and I think it's about time for us to wrap up. So, thank you, Thomas, for your updates. And again, early voting ends November 1st, and election day is going to be Tuesday, November the 4th, I believe. Is that correct, Thomas? So
that is correct.
Entering
I
the
can,
last. Go ahead.
I can pull up the early voting and what information of where you can vote early if you want me to do that.
If you could do so quickly, sure.
All right, I'll do it quickly.
Let me know when you got it up.
Okay. All right. I've got it on the screen. You can see the
Make it big here so everybody can see. Oh wait, what's up? There we go.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So I can scroll down. What counties do you want to look at?
So let's go Edgecombe. Well, let's go CAARE, Chapel Hill, Charlotte.
Okay. All right. Those are cities.
Cities, my bad.
Okay.
My bad.
Well, I'll
Cumberland?
start with
Cumberland.
Cumberland County because yes, we've been featuring Fayetteville, and so
And then I guess Edgecombe.
yes, and so in Cumberland County, you can see you have the Board of Elections will be on the weekdays. It will be every weekday and the final Saturday.
Right.
And that appears to be the same for these other sites. There are two other sites also. I think the schedules are actually different. The Board of Elections is 8 to 5. I think the others are 12 to 7. So that actually, gives a, longer overall voting period. Of course,
Yeah.
Saturday is 8 to 3 for all of them. I
Yeah.
think that's probably the same for most places we'll see on that final Saturday, but
Yeah.
we will go down. So here is Durham, and Durham has, the 5 sites that it's had before.
Yeah.
And it appears that, once again, every site is open every day, and the times appear to be 8:30 to 6 on the weekdays, 12 to 4 on the Sundays, and on the Saturday 8:30 to 1 on tomorrow, and on the final Saturday it's 8 to 3 once again so that's Durham. And Durham Edgecombe has the building in Tarboro, where yes, it will be, I think, open on the weekdays from 8 to 5, and then on that final Saturday 8 to 3. And they are opening the Rocky Mountain Department of Social Services next week for early voting.
All right.
And so I think that's the same as before.
And then I guess Nash.
Um,
Guilford.
Yeah, okay. So I think there are actually quite a few.
Okay.
Most of them are in Greensboro. I think one is listed
Jamestown. Yeah. All right, you can just go past.
So, yeah.
Let's go to Nash.
Okay. Wait, you said you wanted Charlotte? That's in Mecklenburg County. There are actually quite a few in Mecklenburg County. Of course, not all of them in Charlotte, because all of the other municipalities are having their elections too. So
Huntersville. Yep. So I'll just scroll through slow, and then
once again, there's still plenty more.
Yep, just scroll through slow. All right, to Nash. Okay, there's one.
Yep, Nash County Board of Elections, and for the final week, they open up, the library again.
All right, and Orange and Wake, and I think we'll close.
All right.
Orange.
So, Orange is, instead of the election office, it's in another building in Hillsboro, the Orange County seat. And so, yes, that is.
And just scroll through.
All right.
All right, and then we'll finish with Wake. All right.
Board of Elections office is open on the weekdays, it looks like.
Okay. And actually, since we're this close, so we'll scroll all the way to the end, and then we'll close the show.
Okay. I think they have, sites in Garner, Cary, and Apex also, which are opening up. Well, those sites actually open up tomorrow. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think Saturday it's 8 to 3 on both Saturdays, 1 to 6 on the Sunday, and then on the weekdays, 11 to 6. So those sites.
Gotcha.
So those sites open tomorrow.
All right.
In Garner, Cary, and Apex for those elections.
That's it. All right.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for going over. Those are your polling locations. And thank you all for joining us for this week's episode of Doing Justice Brings Joy.
There's an army of angels here.